Oh, Patricia, some of us met this morning, celebrated Vesak also this morning.
That was a good service. That was really good.
That was really good, yeah. So there's the link to the text. Let's see.
Hola Fabiola, yo estaba on mute, por eso no te contesté.
Oh, hola Patricia, how are you?
Fine, fine, thank you.
It was nice to see you this morning while we celebrated
Yes.
Vesak.
Same.
That was so nice.
Let me see.
Fabiola, where did you say you're downloading the text for us to find?
I put the name here on the chat. Did you see it, Tibetan Spirit?
On Zoom text or Facebook text or where?
The Zoom chat here.
Okay, let me look.
Oh, can you download it? Is this Joanne?
Yes, this is Joan.
Joan, here you are.
Yeah. Okay, it says copy.
Are you able to download it or?
I'm trying, I'm waiting.
Okay.
I don't usually do it on my iPad. I usually do it on the computer.
Okay.
You know, I have, okay, I see it here, but you know, this is why I keep writing you because.
Hello, good evening.
I'll talk to you later, Fabiola, about that.
Hi.
Can we
I
start?
just can't get it.
Yes, we can
Yes,
start.
please.
Good. A very good evening to everyone here on Zoom as well as on Facebook. In case you have not noticed or you did not know, maybe many of you, if you're just on Facebook, you probably don't know also. Today is full moon day. This is the full moon in the month of May. And the full moon in the month of May has been recognized internationally by the international Buddhist community as the celebration of Vesak, or in Sanskrit, Vaishaka. Vesak or Vaishaka actually is just the name of that particular month. And the full moon day of that month is the day that commemorates the birth, the enlightenment, and the passing into complete and great nirvana of the historical Buddha. And so today is a very special day for the international Buddhist community. Of course, this year is probably, I'm very sure it's definitely the first time that Vesak is primarily celebrated individually in physical context, but universally together in the context of spirit as well as the internet. So the internet has become the primary practice place, the primary center for all of us to come together to meet, to learn the Dharma, to practice the Dharma together. So as with, suddenly, one is the shock of this very active and seemingly relentless virus that have driven all of us into our own homes, staying inside, suddenly, I think many of us have to learn how to use technology to stay connected and to continue in this context to learn the Dharma and to practice the Dharma. So two things to learn: technology to learn and Dharma to learn. This virus has driven us into our homes for the most part. And for some of us, hopefully this virus, the threat of this virus, has driven us into doing some cleaning and reorganizing, not just our homes, but our true home, our heart mind. Our heart mind is, in the end, the home that we truly should dwell in. But even as we dwell in this true home, our heart mind, for the most part, we have neglected it. For the most part, we have ignored it. For the most part, we have taken it for granted that things are well. When in fact, I think we have been trashing it. We have been damaging it. We have taken it for granted. So just as disasters happening on the outside have gotten many of us concerned about better ways of caring for, better ways of being protecting the outer environment, we should not forget as well the importance of also safeguarding, also protecting the inner home, the inner environment. So outer, we are now thinking how ways in which we can do it better. We have seen how during this period of cutting back forcibly, and as I'm sure some are complaining a lot that we are being forced to cut back, what kind of positive impact, what kind of possibilities may be there when we cut back externally, and how that will give the outer environment a chance to breathe, a chance to continue on to survive, and to ensure that our home, the natural environment of which we are a part of, can be more healthy. And so then that has driven us back into our houses, into our homes. And I think for many of us, I watch, we have home improvement projects, we have garden projects, we have cooking projects, sharing pictures, sharing recipes. So we're doing, the caring now of the homes, the houses that we live in. But that's the inner. Then the so-called secret in this context would be the heart mind. So please take time to care for this heart mind and don't take it for granted. So Lojong, the series that we are now in the middle of, the Lo is the heart mind, the mind. Jong is to train the heart mind. So this training, this expression Lojong is already telling us that we cannot take for granted this heart mind. We cannot take for granted that things will just be okay. It needs our attention. It needs care. It needs safeguarding. If you think about it, from when we were born up until now, so much time we have spent, others have spent to teach us about all sorts of things. All sorts of things. We go to school for X number of years, basic schooling, advanced schooling, postgraduate schooling, continuous education. We spend so much of our resources and time teaching and being taught how to manage the external world, how to manage our homes, how to manage our finances, how to manage our even post-death affairs, right? Put all those affairs in place. So we are taught to manage so many things. And we spend so much of our time and our resources learning how to manage everything except for our mind, except for our heart mind. When it comes to our heart mind, we say, oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. Or then if we need to put in some effort to learn how to safeguard the heart mind, do some homekeeping for the heart mind, and then we say, oh, it's so expensive. Oh, it requires so much of my time, so much of my resources. I don't have time for it. If we really think a little bit about that, we'll see the foolishness of that. It's almost like saying, you work so hard. And then in the end, who you're really working for, that person is not well and has no ability or no capacity to enjoy the fruits of the hard work. So likewise, I think most of us, all of us, myself included, we get so distracted by taking care of all sorts of things except for taking care of the heart mind. And so then, surprise, surprise, things don't turn out the way that gives us satisfaction. No matter how successful, quote unquote, we are not happy, we're not satisfied. And then we begin to think, well, maybe it's because I don't know enough how to take care of, manage things that are outside. Oh, let me go sign up some other program, some other thing, learn from some other people how to manage the outside. Not even thinking at all how to manage inside, how to take care of this heart mind. So that is really important. We need to tend to this heart mind. So this is what Lojong is about. It's about training this heart mind. And then what makes it Mahayana Lojong, and I use the word here Mahayana, not in the sectarian way. I'm not pointing to this or that Buddhist tradition out there that officially has the title Mahayana. Here, Mahayana has a much more basic meaning of the universal approach. The universal approach to mind training, Mahayana Lojong. What makes this universal? It is universal in terms of its scope and its concern. The concern and the scope of this form of Lojong, this form of training the heart mind, isn't just focused on the self, but rather on beyond the self. In fact, it is on all beings without exception. And that makes its scope, that makes its capacity universal rather than individual. Nonetheless, for this universal concern, for this universal scope, necessarily the work has to be done on the level of the individual. On the level of the individual is where the work needs to be done. And that's why we are here. That's why we have to sit. That's why we have to train. That's why we have to subdue all the afflictive emotions that are currently in charge of our lives. So we have to do away with those afflictive emotions. We have to purify, as in we have to polish away the afflictive emotions so that the diamond that we are and the diamond that others are become visible, become obvious. Right now, because of our own layers and layers of confusion, we don't see the diamond that we are. And if we don't see the diamond that we are, no way we can see the diamond that others are. So Lojong, Mahayana Lojong, Lojong of the universal scope, Lojong of the universal concern is about ways to polish away our own confusion, so that we will get to see the diamond that we are. And when the diamond that we are manifests, then that diamond can be of use to others. So this is the gist of Mahayana Lojong. We will start now with the guided meditation part of Mahayana Lojong. So if you have been following the series, you will know that in this tradition, first it says, the first point of the 7 points says, first we have to train in the preliminaries. So first we have to work on the foundational level. So the main preliminary under this first point, when it says train in the preliminaries, is summarized by these 4 things, these 4 points that are often called the 4 thoughts, the 4 considerations to turn our minds away from distractions. As I've said, I think a few weeks back, I said, often we find ourselves saying this, we find other people saying this, saying, oh, I don't have time, I don't have time. If I don't have the time to do this practice, what is the minimal that I need to do? What is the minimal that you think I should do? Once we begin with that question, I'm not judging and I'm not trying to make anyone feel guilty. Once you begin with that question, then you should also be realistic about how much of a difference you can expect to see applying anything. If at the first class, right, for bodybuilding or weightlifting, or whatever skill it is that you're learning, if at the first class or second class, the first thing you say to the teacher is, what is the minimal I need to do in order to derive the maximum? That already tells us something, right? That already tells us something. It tells us that our priority is not really this. We're not convinced yet that we really need to take care of the inside. We are still committed to the idea that mainly figure out how to control the outside. Then the inside is going to take care of itself. After all, the inside is who I am. I'm fine. Just the rest of the world, there is something wrong with that. So I need to figure out how to control that. Me, I'm fine. If that's how you really feel, maybe it's true. I don't know. And then go ahead. Then when you have a little bit of time to give this work, yeah, a little bit of benefit might come. But don't have high hopes, If already you start with, so if I don't have time, what do I have to do? What is the minimum I have to do? If we ask that question, then that is a sign for us, that we need to train in the preliminaries more. Yeah? We need to train in the preliminaries more. I said also, a few weeks ago, I said, often when people say that to me, maybe because, I still want to be liked. I still want people to kind of feel good about me, when they tell me they don't have time. Then I said, oh, yeah, yes, of course, we have such busy lives, we have to take care of so many things. We have so many obligations, and all of that. And then I said, you do the best that you can, Now, if I was really concerned about, the person I'm talking to, and if I have the guts, basically my answer to no time is bullshit. Because that should be the answer I should say to myself too when I tell myself, oh, you don't have time, The answer universally, I talk about universal, talk about that which applies to everyone. The answer is basically bullshit. It's not that you don't have enough time. Siddhartha had 24 hours in one day. The world, the earth, how it rotates, how it goes around the sun, nothing has changed. Or so minimal the change that not much difference. Siddhartha had 24 hours. I have 24 hours. You have 24 hours. The person next to you has 24 hours. All the people that have lived on this earth, 24 hours. All that will live coming, 24 hours. It's a matter of where are our priorities. So the first preliminary with the 4 thoughts that turn the mind, the 4 considerations, helps us to figure out, what do I really want? So here it says, consider the fact that although we now have a human body that is sufficient for us to gain freedom from suffering, although now we have it here, we should not take it for granted, We might not have this again, this opportunity. So cherish that. And consider that the time of death is uncertain. It may arrive all of a sudden. Just like this coronavirus has suddenly put the whole world and the world's plans to a halt. From presidents to paupers, put everyone to a halt. That we have to die is certain. When it's going to happen is uncertain. And when it happens, about the only thing that we can count on is our own heart mind. Because that is what's going to be experiencing this thing that we call death. And if we don't prepare it, we don't take care of that now, when the time comes, it will be too late, of course. And consider that all of confused cyclic existence entails dissatisfaction, entails what we call dukkha or suffering. As long as we are under the power of confusion, of the afflictive emotions, then the way we exist is necessarily dissatisfactory and disenchanting. And consider that suffering originates in non-virtue and happiness originates in goodness. How we can cultivate the good, the more we learn how to cultivate the good, the more likely we are going to experience both temporary happiness and ultimate happiness. So these are the 4 considerations, and they are under the first point, train in the preliminaries. The second point is training the main point, which is training in the 2 bodhicittas. It's called the main practice. So here, first, the training for ultimate bodhicitta is given. Then the training for relative bodhicitta is given. The training for ultimate bodhicitta foregrounds wisdom with love and compassion in the background. And the training of relative bodhicitta foregrounds love and compassion, but as well with wisdom in the background. And so it's a matter of what's in the foreground and what's in the background. And so that is the main training. The main training is in the 2 bodhicittas. Then, under the second point, it divides our life into 2 parts. The part where you sit down and formally meditate, right? And the part that when you get up from the seat and to go do the other things that we do in life, the post-meditation. So there's the meditation part of our lives and the post-meditation. So basically right now, it's about 4% of meditation, 96% of off meditation. And so in both of these trainings, in absolute and relative bodhicitta, certain one-liners are given for how to train, kind of prompts These one-liners are prompts. They prompt us. So a number of one-liners are given. A number of statements are given as prompts for us to train in absolute bodhicitta while seated in meditation, and then also how to train when we are off cushion. Likewise, for relative bodhicitta, a number of statements are given for how to train when we are seated in meditation and how to train when we're off cushion. Then, especially for the on the cushion training, there is also a preliminary to that. Yeah? For the on the cushion, the preliminary is at first. Yeah? First, we need to, according to the commentary, we need to take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And this is, of course, very common for those of us who are practicing as Buddhists, as Dharma practitioners. We always remember Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. But Buddha, Dharma, Sangha are not like, the Trinity of Buddhism. These are not gods or powerful deities that are going to, like kind of land on earth and scoop us up and take us away from suffering. The way we relate to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is that we look to the Buddha as our inspiration to say that whatever he did, I can do too. Whatever he achieved, I too can achieve. The Dharma is what he taught for us to achieve what he achieved. The Sangha are those who have successfully applied these instructions and have gone ahead of us in terms of their progress to the state of Buddha. So we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So in that way, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha becomes a reference point for us. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha becomes like the pole star in which we orientate our lives towards. We are wanderers. We are migratory beings. We are not home. We are lost. We have been exiled. We are wandering the earth because we have lost our true home. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is the pole star that we orientate our lives, our journey by looking for that pole star. And once we see that pole star, we have our reference point. And so it says, first, have your mind recollect the virtues of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And then we should think that why is the reason, what is the reason that we do this? So this is when we generate bodhicitta. Here, this bodhicitta that we are generating, or the bodhicitta that we are producing in our minds, is actually relative bodhicitta. And relative bodhicitta is basically here expressed as, I shall do this work of becoming a Buddha so that when I am a Buddha, I can benefit, I can help, I can truly be of help to other beings. Now, of course, it's not as if, until I'm Buddha, I have no time for others. It's not saying that. But it is saying that only when you are Buddha and only when others are Buddha are we then truly free from suffering. And so this motivation needs to be there. And with this as the motivation, then we can begin the meditation. And the preliminary meditation for training in the two bodhicittas is the counting of breath. And so you will recall that we count in, out 1, in, out 2, all the way to 21, or the modified version that I taught in sets of 3. So you in, out 1, in, out 2. So this is what we are going to do now. I'm going to begin by reciting some bodhicitta verses for generating bodhicitta. So you just listen. You can start your meditation now. You just listen. When I finish saying that, that's when, right? You can start the counting of breath. In, out, 1, in, out, 2. And then in the middle of this period of meditation, I will give some prompts, some words. And then towards the end, I will prompt you to begin training in absolute bodhicitta, to begin training in the wisdom aspect of bodhicitta. And so that's towards the end of this meditation period. I will do that because we already started that last week. So now we start. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in a state of the most perfect and precious awakening. Thus, until I achieve awakening, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until I attain the heart of awakening, I take refuge in all the Buddhists. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas developed awakening mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all migratory beings, give rise to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. So with this motivation, with this determination, now you say, and now I will begin to train in the necessary foundation for training in the two bodhicittas, which is the establishing of presence, the establishing of stability of mind, so that we don't so easily get dragged around by thoughts, by emotions. So that we can begin to develop more and more freedom from the tyranny of thoughts and emotions. The first step for this is to develop the ability to be present at will, not only when things become interesting, or as well when things become painful, that our attention suddenly becomes present. Ordinarily, those are about the only times when our mind and body are in the same place. Otherwise, my body is here, and sometimes barely here, and mind is everywhere else. So this training of counting breath is to train so that at will we can bring our mind, we can bring our attention, we can bring our presence to right now, right here, in this space, in this moment. So in the Lojong instructions, it is said that you do this by anchoring your attention your presence on the breath that enters you and leaves you through the nostril. So inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2, count all the way to 21. If at 18 or 7 or 20, you lose count, no matter. You get to start at 1 again. This is not as punishment. This is more opportunities to train in presence. You are going to lose count. And when that happens, it's not because you have failed. It's all part of the process of strengthening your attention muscle, strengthening your presence muscle. in between sets of 21 that you are counting, give yourself some space to just relax the mind, not needing to count. And then after a little while, you can tighten it again by resuming the counting. Inhale, exhale 1. Inhale, exhale 2. And all the way to 21. And then rest. And then start again. And then relax the mind. Relax your attention. And then start again. 21. as a transition to training in absolute bodhicitta. You can now, as you breathe in, think that as you breathe in, you're breathing in space. And as you breathe out, you're breathing out into space. Breathe in, space. Breathe out, space. In this way, continue to train. Breathe in, space. Breathe out, space. So instead of counting at this point, just feel as you breathe in all the space that opens up within you, not just within your body, but within your mind, the space that just opens up. Then as you exhale, no need to hold on to that space that you just experienced, because as you exhale, as you breathe out, it is out into space that you release your mind. So breathe in, opening up space inside. Breathe out, letting your mind pervade in all directions and feel the spaciousness and the freedom of every breath. Breathing in, you experience space within your body, within your own mind. Breathing out, trust that whatever situation that you are encountering on the outside, whatever pleasant, unpleasant conditions that you think you're surrounded by, that as you breathe out, trust that it is all spacious. And it's the spaciousness that actually allows all the various appearances to arise. And so as you breathe out, no matter what difficulties, you breathe space into those difficulties. You begin to see the space that exists, that it is not so tight after all. Whatever it is that you're facing out there, that you don't want to face, that you cannot accept is happening, that you don't like is happening, that you want to run away from. As you breathe out, experience the space that is the basis of the arising of all these labels of liking and not liking. But lest that you dwell too much on that, before long, you have to inhale again. And as you inhale, now your focus is on inner spaciousness, inner freedom. Touch that freedom And then no grasping, no fixating on that because before long, as good as it is to experience this inner opening, this inner space, once again, you have to exhale. And as you exhale, experience the space of conditions, the spaciousness of situations, of your surroundings, of your conditions, those that we habitually label as desirable and undesirable, want more and want less, all of that. Just breathe space outwards into them and experience their spaciousness, touch their spaciousness. And then in the next moment, you have to let that go. And again, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Whenever you find your attention or your presence becoming fuzzy, becoming dissipated, go back to counting one set of 21. And if after one set you're satisfied that your mind is focused again, bright and brilliant, then you can go back to not counting and instead transition into the very beginnings of absolute bodhicitta meditation. Breathing in space, breathing out into space, breathing in space, experience the freedom and the spaciousness that is within you. Breathing out, experience the freedom and the spaciousness that is all encompassing and all around you. Inside, outside, both completely free. Nothing is stuck, no obstacles, no fear, and no hope necessary. No fear to run away from, no hope to chase after. Simply be present. Each of the statements in this collection of statements divided into 7 points serves as a prompt, serves as a reminder, particularly the statements under the second point, the training in the 2 bodhicittas. Those are prompts to remind us of how to regard and how to practice. So the first line for the training in absolute bodhicitta, it says, regard or see or consider or have an attitude that all phenomena, meaning all appearances, meaning all experiences that arise, every sight, every sound, every smell, every texture, every taste, every thought, every emotion, all experiences, all appearances, see and regard them to be dreamlike, to be like a dream, vivid and clear, but yet having no reality except for temporarily conjuring some significance. And even that significance dissolves. See how they are like a dream. See how they are like a movie. In movies, in dreams, no doubt we can have very powerful experiences, especially in movies sometimes, even more powerful than what we consider as real life. But no matter how powerful, we know that in the movies, what appears on the screen, in dreams, what appear in our sleep, they are insubstantial. Now, using that as an analogy, now during this period of meditation, now no need to count, no need to think about or try to experience space, breathing in and breathing out. Simply be present, and then whatever thoughts that arise within this presence, just relate to them as a movie, as a dream. Do not give them more power than they are due. Simply see them as they are. If a feeling of boredom comes up, see it as it is. If a feeling of elation comes up, see it as it is. Don't come under the power of whatever the emotion, whatever the thought. No need to hunt them down either. Simply let be. And hold your presence. Hold your attention. Hold your awareness. Remain undistracted from this very moment. Everything else can just come and go. You are the host. Regain your position of the host. Everything else are guests, and guests can come and go. Do not let the guests turn into a host. Take your position as the host and welcome the guests as they come. But soon enough, you also send the guests off. So that is a short session that begins with the preliminaries of Lojong and then transitioning into the first prompt given in the second point, which is to regard all appearances, all phenomena as a dream, as like the experiences that you have when inside a dream, when watching a movie. So let's see if there are questions. Or comments.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I think we like to sit on the cushion, although sometimes we are told we can sit on a chair. How do you deal with pain, pins and needles, and having to stretch your legs from time to time?
Okay, so this is regarding the question of physical posture during meditation. Different traditions of meditation will give you different ways of handling that. In some types of meditation, it is absolutely important not to move at all. And also a lot of encouragement to endure the pain, to cut through the pain and the pins and needles. I have done those practices and they can become very powerful, and it is possible to break through to this pain. And then you develop certain mental muscles. Here, I would say in the Lojong tradition, that is not emphasized. In fact, I would say it doesn't matter whether you sit on the floor or you sit on a chair. Main thing is you sit in a way that is comfortable, but also conducive to remaining alert. Sometimes too comfortable, and then you doze off. So you want to be comfortable, and you want to sit in a way that encourages, that promotes alertness of mind. Then that's enough. You know, if you need to move, you can move, but do it with awareness rather than just habitually responding to, oh, I'm going to move now. Or actually, we don't even think about it, you know. So that's why when itchy, you just scratch. So we do so many things without even thinking. But here, in terms of establishing presence, it is not that itching is, you know, a mortal sin. Even in traditions that talk about sin, you know, I don't think there's a religion that says itching is a mortal sin. So much less in Buddhist practice, you know, there's nothing wrong if you want to scratch. But as we are developing presence and attention, we want to know that, that's an itch, asking to be scratched. Then with awareness, if you have to scratch, you scratch. But then if you really pay attention, you'll also see how if we give in without awareness, or even with some awareness we give in, if we keep giving in, the other side will keep pushing. The distractions will keep pushing. They know that he's a softie. They'll keep pushing. So it's also good sometimes to practice restraint. Again, the restraint has nothing to do with, oh, Buddha doesn't like people who itch, or Buddha doesn't like people, you know, who cannot sit still. It's not about that. But it's about using everything to develop presence and attention at will. In a way, you can say that, you know, the urge to scratch, the urge to attend to, you know, a tight muscle, or, you know, blood not flowing so well, then you want to move, you want to change. In a way, it's a form of presence, but those forms of presence, those things that take your mind to it, you have no control. It's like it's become automatic. So in a way, you know, I would say, if you're really well developed in not simply being yanked away by these things, in this COVID-19 times, you know, if you really train your mind well, at will, you will say, don't touch the eyes, don't touch the nose. When you're outside. So, you know, we habitually this, you know. I've seen, you know, people who spend most of their life meditating, training the mind. You will see that none of their movements are frivolous. They don't doodle. They're very much aware of their body and what their body is doing. That's a good skill to have, because when we have that, you know, we can be so free. So this is not a tightness. Don't want to encourage tightness. Even if the method used, you know, sometimes is to tighten, but the goal is not to become all tight and rigid. It's actually to become more relaxed.
Dr. Lai, there's a question here in the chat.
Sure.
Dorjilapon, is it possible for us to take the, quote, think of all phenomena to be like dreams too far? Like, for example, if a person starts to really think that everything is a dream, then they'll think that nothing is real.
First of all, that statement is a prompt for formal meditation. I can't hear you anymore, Fabiola.
Oh, no, that was the question.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah. First of all, remember, this is, I say again and again and again and again, you know. I think it's because you all have read so many places and so many other books and so many other teachers that teach this Lojong in 7 points as if all the statements are to be used in the same way. Here, remember that this statement regard all phenomena as dreams is given in the context of during formal meditation. And it's a prompt, yeah, to say, don't fixate, don't get stuck. If you now fixate on the dream, then you have turned the antidote into poison. So you're concerned, you know, about like, oh, if I take this, regard everything as a dream, you know, then I'm going to go too far. You see how much we fixate. Even this line to help us to unclench, to let go, we have to do it with fixation. But first thing to remember, in the context of this being a prompt for you to meditate on absolute bodhicitta, I don't think, you know, sitting here and really relating to all thoughts and all experiences that arise as dreamlike, as movie-like, I don't think you can, you know, sitting here get into too much trouble. Don't worry, you know, your chair is not going to suddenly disappear. The ceiling is not going to suddenly fall down. It's not likely to happen when you're seated in meditation. Now later, the post-meditation statement, it does say, regard everything to be the product of illusion. It says child of illusion, literally, but it means see how everything, all your experiences post-meditation as you're walking around, to be like an illusion. Yes, of course, there is the danger of taking too far. Buddha always talk about that. So Buddha's method, you know, never one thing to be taken out and say, I do this only. No, always everything. My analogy of like, you know, a banana bread, you know, you cannot say, oh, in a banana bread, banana is most important. Then if you fixate on just banana, you'll never have a banana cake. You'll just have a banana that will turn brown, then turn black, and then completely inedible. Or if you fixate on eggs, eggs are really important. Oh, flour is really important. If you fixate on any of the ingredients, you will never be able to bake a banana bread. Everything is one piece. And when all those pieces you put together, that's how you practice. So how do you protect against going too far with, you know, be like a child of illusion, see everything as a product of illusion? How do you protect from going too far? You also know about cause and effect. You also know about karma. You also know that karma is unmistaken. Even if it is in a dream, if you create non-virtue, you will experience things that you habitually label as unpleasant, undesirable. If you create seeds of virtue, then you will experience what you will label as desirable, as happiness. But please remember this line, regard all phenomena as dream. Here in this context, apply it during formal meditation on absolute bodhicitta.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. The person says that was a very helpful explanation.
Good, good.
Dr. Lai, could I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I wonder if you might have something to say in terms of antidotes for the tulkur or the dullness. I find especially in the evening, it's so easy just to kind of slip away where I'm not really sleeping, but I'm definitely in like that tulkur. And I also find that happens with mantra recitations. If I'm doing sessions of mantra recitation, that will happen also. And so I've heard a lot about antidotes. I try to apply them. It still happens. I thought maybe you might have something new that I haven't tried yet that maybe, or just wondering what you might have to say about that.
Dullness that arises is basically when the mind is exhausted, just like when the body is exhausted. So especially like beginners, and 30 years later, most of us are still beginners. Then you have to respect the body a little bit. Find optimal times to do your practice. That will be the first thing to do. And you have to discover it through your own understanding, your own rhythms. So that's one thing. Second thing, when it becomes dull, it's not like you have to surrender to it. Then you like you're always fine tuning. Again, this idea that just do one thing and do one thing all the way to the end, maybe there's some value of its simplicity and the power of that simplicity. But the way really the Buddha talked about, how all this happens is that it's always about aggregating, collecting a whole set of tools that you apply. So dullness arises. You have to look, you have to switch. Sometimes it's like switching to, like earlier I said, okay, now if it's become fuzzy, go back to counting. And then if counting 1 to 21 also becomes fuzzy, count 21, 20, 19, 18. And if that's still fuzzy, right, then rouse yourself like physically, like just pull yourself up, and then just kind of look straight ahead, gaze up. They say when the mind is dull, have your visual space to gaze upwards. Even maybe opening eyes kind of big, and hold there that tension. Then go back to what you were doing. And then again. And then you begin to learn, maybe it's a really, really, really not a good time. And then you're beginning to learn, oh, this time of the day, not so helpful to do this practice. So you experiment and trust your own process. Know when to push, know when not to push, know when to not give in, know when to give in. All of that, we really need to develop a trust in our own process.
Thank you.
Dr. Lai?
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can karma be discharged or created by dreams?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but it's a nice thing to think about. Right now, be more concerned about the waking state, what kind of karma we are creating, positive and negative.
Thank you.
Yeah. Killing demons in a dream, or killing someone in the dream, it's not the full karma of actually killing someone, but there's still karma involved, I'm sure. Kind of like a first degree, second degree, third degree, dream degree. So now, the next prompt, the next line given in the Absolute Bodhicitta training says, examine the nature of birthless awareness. So awareness here is the mind, the knowing, that which knows, or the knowing, this awareness. So here it is the word Rigpa. But here Rigpa does not necessarily have to mean the way that in Dzogchen training, Rigpa means. There Rigpa is a much more loaded term. Here I think, while not necessarily contradicting that definition of Rigpa, here it is sufficient to understand this Rigpa as what makes the mind, which is the ability to know. So this ability to know, this ability to perceive, this ability to cognize, this quality of that we call mind, it says here, see how it's birthless. Birthless can mean, again, all of this, there are layers and layers of meaning. What I'm trying to encourage here is for us to start at a layer that we can kind of relate to, but also know that this is not the full extent of what this means. There are so many layers to uncover. There are so many flavors to savor when we begin to practice this. So on the layer that I think we can start with, here when it says examine the nature of birthless awareness, so primarily here is examine. Examine here has more of a sense because remember this is done during the meditation, whereby you start with generating bodhicitta, counting 21, establishing presence, then regarding all phenomena as a dream. So now you are fairly good, let's say, in not being dragged around by your emotions, by concepts, by plans, by fears, and by hopes that, naturally turns up when you're trying to quiet the mind, when you're trying to kind of slow down the mind. Suddenly, all these things come, right? But now, through training in the first prompt, you have gained some freedom. You can hold your own. You can remain as host without the guests usurping your landlordship of this house. So you're holding your own. So now this next line is saying, then in an even more subtle way now, this holding your own, this sense of like me, I, even that, look into that. Consider how even that, right, that ability to know, that mind, that you, that now isn't being dragged around by just willy-nilly anything that turns up. Even that, see how that mind is interdependent with whatever the object that comes up. What does this mean on the level that we can relate to? It's still the same meaning as don't fixate. So even the focused mind, even the mind that is present, alert, aware, don't let that become a basis of being stuck. So examine the nature of birthless awareness. Philosophically, you can go read up, what this line means. But I think I don't want to spend so much time philosophizing this. I want us to see how, in the context of a meditation session, how we apply this prompt. So how we apply this prompt, to say a little bit more, the first prompt is pointing out the nature of the objects that you perceive, appearances, phenomena. Second line is pointing out the nature of the subject that is perceiving. A comparable dialectic is found in a very respected and popular method that is practiced in Chinese Buddhism, where they use the technique of chanting the name of Buddha Amitabha. So superficially, it looks like, oh, these are people who practice Pure Land. So the person chants, Namo Amitofo, Namo Amitofo, Namo Amitofo, Namo Amitofo, and even contracting it to Amitofo, 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 Amitofo. So superficially, this is the name of Buddha Amitabha. And it says Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha. So it said that you chant that as much as they say 70,000 times a day. So in doing that, your mind becomes so focused, so single-pointed. Then the next step to that method is, they say you raise a question. Within the context of completely focus on Amitabha, you begin at first by slightly raising the question as a question, sort of like the way examine here works. You raise the question of who is reciting Amitabha? Who is focused on Amitabha? Who is this? In Chinese is 是谁? 谁念佛? Who is it? So you raise this doubt. But that is basically, and again, it's not philosophizing. It's really, it says, with every pore of your being, every inch, every ounce of your being, you have raised this question. Who is it? What is it? There, subject and object, and the interdependence of subject and object is what we are doing here. Is we are trying to see directly the interdependence between subject that is perceiving and objects that are perceived, and in seeing that, we become free from the duality of the subject and object. So these two lines in Absolute Bodhicitta, the dialectic that is present there is very similar to this Pure Land, and it's a combination of Pure Land and Chan or Zen method, sometimes called the dual practice of Pure Land and Chan. It works like this in a nutshell. Third and fourth statements, we will look at it next time. But there is, it's at a level that I say for most of us, maybe we won't be able to do much with it, except for some take-home lessons. The prompt, it's basically saying even the technique that you use to arrive at this state, let it go. Don't fixate. So in other words, all three prompts, all three first statements for Absolute Bodhicitta is to understand, in philosophical expression, understand shunyata, understand emptiness. And this is the wisdom aspect. These first three lines is if you like categories, some of you like that, is you can say analytical meditation, but not in that philosophizing, logic-based analytical, but you can say this is analytical. The fourth line here, the essence of the path is settling in the alaya state. That is abiding meditation. The first three is vipassana. The fourth is shamatha. Ordinarily, we say, first you practice shamatha, then you practice vipassana. Yes, this is true. The counting of the 21 is shamatha. Then within vipassana, you can still divide the first part into vipassana, and then the second part, shamatha. But the second shamatha here, which is the fourth statement, it's no longer the shamatha of simply controlling the mind, but it is letting the mind rest in its own nature. Rather advanced practice. If the last 10 minutes all just kind of went above your head, don't worry about it. But some of you might know the vocabulary enough to say, oh, wow, he knows what he's talking about. So I managed to con you into thinking, oh, I know what I'm talking about. But hopefully I'm not conning you to take advantage of you, but I'm conning you so that you will come back again and again and get some benefit from this series. Any questions? We've reached 9 o'clock now. The allergies are getting pretty bad for me, getting more and more congested. Usually at this time of the day, somehow the congestion starts. Now even morning it's starting, so. Anybody, questions, comments? Even if you're on Facebook, if you have a question, Fabiola has been very diligent in reading there as well.
Just a quick question, Dr. Lai.
Yes.
I would like to really understand what do you mean when you say breathe in space and breathe out space, especially when you say breathe out space. Does it maybe mean that you can experience to how to be free, or how to, I don't know if maybe we can extend it to and say don't fixate, or what do you mean by breathe out space?
Literally, when you breathe out, where does your breath go?
Outside.
Yeah, what is outside?
My surroundings.
Yeah, space, yeah. So I'm using this as analogy. Literally, when we breathe in, what is the feeling? If you have not been able to breathe, let's say, especially, difficulties breathing, then suddenly you are able to breathe. And when you breathe in, what kind of feeling do you have? You feel, right? Mm-hmm. So try to get that experience, breathe in, space. But then using that as a bridge, not just physically feeling good, also now think the mind actually has so much space that I'm not able to normally experience. Now let me pay attention. And then as you breathe in, using that as a technique. I'm not saying that breath, magically can do these things, but you use that as a technique. You use that as a method. Breathe in, So just as physically you feel good, so probably, you know, doctors can tell you why, you know, you feel good, the lungs and all that. Yes, I'm not denying all the physiology that's going on. I'm saying with the physical experience of wellness as you breathe in, you extend it to how the mind also becomes spacious and open and bright. So breathe in space. Then breathe out. Literally, right? Your breath goes out. Where does your breath goes when it goes out? You cannot control. You cannot say, I want it to go to the left. I want it to go to the right. I think it should go to the top. I think it should go to the bottom. There is no limit to space. Your breath has become one with all-encompassing space. Again, that is materially, that's what's going on. I'm suggesting you use that as a method to also get your mind to think, now I just let it all go. In terms of all these situations out there that outside the context of this meditation, I have to go take care of, I have to manage, I have to stop, I have to chase after, all of that. During this session, just release. Breathe in, releasing all the inner tensions and stresses. Breathe out, letting go of all those problems that you habitually think you have to go handle. You might have to go handle 40 minutes later. Leave it for 40 minutes later. Now, self-care. So that you train up your muscles. So that when you do have to go contest this bill that they say you did not pay, you go contest that, you know, you don't simply just pay it.
Thank you. Great.
Important things, all these Lojong statements, historically it is said that you should keep them secret, meaning you don't let other people know. Lojong in 8 verses, a shorter text because only 8 verses. Here 7 points, actually many points within the 7 points, but another very famous Lojong in 8 verses. Which actually inspired Geshe Chekawa. It said that Geshe Chekawa heard the Lojong in 8 verses, and he was so moved that he went looking for teachers who can teach him that. But at that point, Geshe Langri Tangpa had already passed away. But Geshe Chekawa found Geshe Langri Tangpa's colleague, fellow Dharma brother. Then he trained with that person. Anyway, Geshe Langri Tangpa, it says, you know, that you should practice all of these instructions secretly. So I should say this now. Practice this secretly. Don't let other people know you're practicing Lojong. Hopefully nobody would notice, you know, on Facebook or here, ooh, who is attending this? But joking aside, the reason why you should practice this in secret is you don't want people, you know, to take advantage of you. Traditionally, it says, you know, you don't want obstacles to arise prematurely. Obstacles can arise when you are strong. Then for every obstacle that turns up, it will make you stronger. But earlier on, best not to invite too many obstacles. Best to hide the fact that you're practicing Lojong, because otherwise people will test you and people will challenge you and people might break you. So at the beginning, keep this very intimate, very secret. Don't let other people know you're practicing Lojong. So we will end tonight because I think on Facebook things got also stuck maybe. I'm not sure, but anyway, we've reached 9 o'clock, so we will end here. with a dedication prayer, which says, Bodhicitta, where it has not arisen, may it arise. And where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase, stronger and stronger. Changju Semju Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nam Ge Gyurje Ge Ba Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Be Wer Shu. Again, a reminder that all these teachings that we are doing is being uploaded onto the YouTube channel called Drikung Dharma Kirti Circle. Go to YouTube and do a search for this particular channel, and you will see all the Lojong as well as other teachings that are going on right now are also posted on that particular channel. And so you all have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Only when we skillfully learn how to take care of ourselves can we effectively take care of the people around us. So have a good night. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias, buenas noches. Thank you.